Hi everyone, and welcome to Know Your Food with Wardee. I'm Wardee, a wife, mom of three, and the lead teacher and founder of TraditionalCookingSchool.com. I'm also the author of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Fermenting Foods. I'm so glad you're here. This is the podcast devoted to healthy family cooking with traditional methods like sourdough and old-fashioned pickling. These foods are delicious, easy, healthy, and your family will love them. If you haven't already, be sure to grab my free gift for you. It's 5 free traditional cooking videos from inside Traditional Cooking School that will introduce you to my favorite fundamental techniques of traditional cooking. To start watching now, just go to knowyourfoodpodcast.com/watch. And now let's get to today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Food with Wardee podcast. This is episode 169. I want to give a big hello to everyone who's joining me on Facebook Live right now for this live recording. It's awesome to see you here, including Erin, who's just on the other side of the building. Good to see you, Erin. So you are joining me right now for a live recording. Those of you coming in later, welcome to you as well. If you're listening in your earbuds, you can switch to the video version of this podcast at knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. If you're watching the video, you can switch to the audio version either on iTunes or at knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. And at that link are going to be all the links and notes from everything I'm planning to share today. The topic today is 6 lessons learned from 2 years of pressure cooking. So I have a lot to share because I think these are things that the books don't tell you. Or at least you just have to go through a lot of trial by fire to learn these things. So I'm excited to share them with you. And we've got all kinds of people here just chiming in the comments. So hello, so glad to see you all. Okay, so a little bit of an introduction here. So at Traditional Cooking School, we do traditional methods like soaking, sprouting, and fermenting, culturing. These prepare foods for best digestion. Traditional methods, when people use them, they're healthier. My family has had great results from incorporating traditional methods. We've gone from extreme food allergies and environmental allergies to basically being completely healed by incorporating traditional methods. Traditional methods like soaking, sprouting, culturing, fermenting, they prepare foods for best digestion. They remove anti-nutrients that can inhibit mineral absorption and make digestion hard. The traditional methods help you get more nutrition from the foods you eat. And even though that might sound overwhelming, traditional cooking is not hard. It's just smart. Maybe takes a little forethought in, like, instead of cooking your rice now, you started soaking the day before. So you're not spending more time if you're cooking already, but you're starting things earlier. And the beauty of traditional methods is that you're using acids and live cultures, and they do a lot of the work for you. Now, you might be wondering, how is this related to pressure cooking? Well, the thing about pressure cooking is that pressure cooking is a modern method, and at Traditional Cooking School, we are, or I should say, a modern tool and method. And at Traditional Cooking School, we are combining all the principles and methods of traditional cooking that make food nutritious and digestible with the modern appliance or modern tool of pressure cooking, so we have the best of both worlds. And I myself have been pressure cooking for 2 years now. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as we get into the points I want to make. But what I want to tell you are the 6 lessons I've learned in 2 years of pressure cooking that are really hard to find because you read books and they're loaded with lots of tips, cookbooks or whatnot, but there's just some insider things that we've learned that I want to share now. And I do want to credit my friend and cohort teacher, Vicki Lynn Haycraft. Oh, and also my daughter, Hania. The 3 of us have been teaching a pressure cooking e-course at Traditional Cooking School. And so between the 3 of us, we have covered a lot of ground and we've learned a lot of things. And so the 6 points I'm going to make today are kind of the benefit of what the 3 of us have learned. And I want to recommend that if you're a member and you've been following along with this class, which is nearly done, I just put up lesson 10 yesterday. We have 1 more lesson to go. If you're a member and you've had big ahas or big like trial by fire lessons that you've learned from our course, please come by the show notes, knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. They will be up when this is released on iTunes about a week from now. And put your big lessons learned in the comments. If you're watching right now live and you're a member, you can, of course, put your big lessons learned in the comments right here on Facebook Live. I really want to hear from you because I have 6 things to share, and I know there's so many more things that beginner and experienced pressure cooks alike learn and can share, and we can all benefit from. Okay, and hi to Jen. Good to see you, Jen. So let's dive into these 6 lessons learned. Okay, my first big lesson learned is about the Instant Pot. It's probably not coming as a surprise to you who have been awake on the internet for probably the last year, because the Instant Pot is definitely a craze that's affected nearly every home cook. And I am one of those home cooks who's been deeply affected by the Instant Pot. But let me step back a bit and tell you how I got into pressure cooking. I got into pressure cooking because that year we had in fact, it may have been more than 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. Anyway, we had a grass-fed beef that we purchased. We didn't raise that one ourselves. We purchased it, and it was just drier and tougher than any other we'd had. And that is something that sadly can be the norm with grass-fed beef. Not all, but every farmer and ranch is different, and it has to do with how they're raised and how much fat they've put on and whatnot. Anyway, we got tough grass-fed beef, and I tried slow cooking and all kinds of things, and we just couldn't get it to be enjoyable because it just turned out really dry and tough. And so I was reading about different methods, and I ran across pressure cooking, and I was like, I just got to try this. So I purchased a stovetop pressure cooker. I'll have a link for you in the show notes for which one I purchased. And the roast turned out fabulous. So I was sold on pressure cooking. And then I got more into it and doing more with it, like cooking a whole chicken in a short order of time, doing broth in 30 minutes to an hour. Just was totally sold on it. Now getting to the Instant Pot, then I heard about the Instant Pot, and it totally changed my life because the Instant Pot makes pressure cooking so much more doable. Now, the promise with pressure cooking is that it's really easy and fast, and that is true. If you're using a stovetop cooker, though, it's not like so easy. It's definitely doable. It's definitely worth doing, but you're doing some hands-on monitoring because you have to hold your pot at the right pressure. And so that means adjusting its position on the burner and adjusting the heat on the burner. And there's some fiddling that you have to do to get it to pressure and maintain that pressure for the duration of the cooking time. So it's kind of hands-on. You have to be there to monitor. And again, I'm not trying to put it down because I did it and I loved it. I love the results and I found it very easy. Well, I found it easy. And then the Instant Pot came into my life, and the Instant Pot is an electric plug-in pressure cooker that also has other functions, but I primarily use it as a pressure cooker, and you plug it in and you press the buttons on what you want, and the machine itself takes care of getting up to pressure and holding it at pressure for the duration of the cooking time. It also depressurizes naturally, or there's an easy way to quick release. But the point here that I'm making is the Instant Pot made pressure cooking so much more doable. So this is the lesson. If I were to go back and get into pressure cooking, I would have chosen an Instant Pot from the get-go. Now I know even at traditional cooking school, we have members who've chosen stovetop because they don't want to be on the grid so much, or if the power goes out, they still want to be able to use the stovetop on a camp stove or whatnot, and those are huge legitimate reasons I don't want to knock. But if you are, you could have a stovetop pressure cooker that you pick up at a garage sale, but if you're going to make an investment in a big one and you don't have a problem with, benefiting from the electricity while it's on, I say get into pressure cooking with an Instant Pot, because an Instant Pot makes pressure cooking so much more doable. That has been my experience. The first year of pressure cooking with the stovetop, I didn't use it as much as I could because it was easy, but it wasn't as easy as promised, I guess you would say. I literally use our Instant Pot all the time. It's always going. Even if the dinner that I'm making doesn't involve pressure cooking, I still use it. Like an example just happened yesterday. We were grilling outside for dinner. We did barbecue chicken, and we even did potatoes, and they were boiling in a pot on the camp stove. And I had a whole chicken thawed in the fridge, and I was just like, I'm just going to cook this now. The Instant Pot is free. We are cooking. I may as well, do double duty here and be efficient. I put the whole chicken in the Instant Pot, and it was done in about an hour. So by the time we're serving dinner, the Instant Pot is like depressurizing, and by the time the dinner's over, the chicken is cooked, and now we have chicken to eat today. That's what I mean by literally using the Instant Pot all the time. I use it even when the dinner is not pressure cooked to cook ahead for the next day. Another thing that I do often is if I'm going to have hard-boiled eggs, I just fill up the whole thing. You can do like up to 18 eggs in the Instant Pot. And by the way, they turn out better than stovetop boiling because they will always peel easily if they're done in the Instant Pot. So that was point number 1, which I know was lengthy. In my 6 lessons learned from 2 years of pressure cooking, which is actually 2+, the Instant Pot makes pressure cooking so much more doable. So if you're interested in pressure cooking, I suggest you get the Instant Pot. You'll find a link at the show notes, knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. And in fact, if you do go to the show notes and pick up my link, and for those of you on Facebook Live, I'll make sure that link is above when I'm done here. It's a link that goes to Amazon. It doesn't cost you anymore, but if you do purchase after clicking my link, it will help support Traditional Cooking School, and I appreciate that. So point number 2, lessons learned from a couple years of pressure cooking is this is a way to increase efficiency. And I first learned this from Vicki Lynn Haycraft, who helps to teach our pressure cooking e-course at Traditional Cooking School. And that is to, while you're prepping and getting everything ready for your meal that's going to pressure cook, start preheating your pressure cooker and even some of the ingredients. So all you're doing is putting your basic liquid or sauteing your onions or, something, do it in the pressure cooker and turn it on to saute function. Now, if you're on a stovetop, that means you're putting it on the burner and getting it heating up. If you're on an Instant Pot or an electric pressure cooker, there's a saute function or, it's not a pressure function, but it's just a heat function for like frying, sauteing. Anyway, so make use of that so that when you're ready to pressurize and you have all your ingredients prepped and everything, you come up to pressure faster. The reason is because in order to come up to pressure, all the ingredients have to be hot and at a certain temperature. So if you can make sure they're at least room temperature or hot by the time you hit the pressure cycle, then you're going to get to pressurized faster, which is going to shave off time from your overall cooking time. If you start with something frozen, in fact, in the comments, Amy said you can cook a chicken frozen. Yes, you can, and go ahead and do that. But the thing is if the ingredients are dense or if they're super cold, it's just going to take longer to come to pressure. So you might be coming to pressure for 30 minutes or more on something that's frozen or something that's very cold. However, if you preheat the water or saute your onions or brown your chicken right in the unit, sear it. What I mean by brown, if you can sear your meats in oil and like garlic and onions, if you can do that ahead of time, then your ingredients are already warm. So when you go to pressurize, you're just shaving time off what is required to come up to pressure. Okay? So that was point number 2. Make use of that. Preheat your ingredients. Preheat your liquid, use room temperature ingredients, pre-sear, think about as you're prepping to be preheating as much as you can so that you shave time off your pressurizing time. Third lesson learned from a couple years of pressure cooking is, this is related to number 2. Sometimes, like if I'm doing a quick bread or a cake or some custards or something like that, you're just putting straight water in the cooker with the trivet and you're putting a glass lid or a plate on top and you're hitting the saute so it can start getting hot. And then you're prepping all your whatever you're going to bake. By the time you have your filling in your containers and you're putting it in your pressure cooker, like half your water is evaporated or more than half of the water is evaporated. Well, you have to replace that water. And I learned this the hard way, where I had evaporated water and then I'm putting stuff in and I'm hitting the cycle to pressurize and it's not coming to pressure. It went through the cook time and everything, but it was not pressurized, so the food was not done when the pressure cycle was over. So this is a big lesson learned. Pay attention to the amount of water you put in when you're preheating, because if you take a long time prepping, or actually even if you take a normal amount of time prepping, you're going to lose water that's preheating in there through evaporation. It is boiling hot. And so then you replenish and try to replenish with hot water rather than cold. Again, principle number 2, so it can be hot rather than cold when coming up to pressure. Just a quick question here coming in from Lisa. Can you bake in it like a cake or bread? Definitely. We show you a lot of those in our pressure cooking e-course at Traditional Cooking School. Okay, lesson learned number 4. Oh, I love this. So we have this problem in our house, which is it gets hot in the summer and it doesn't vent. So I can't cook inside really all the hot summer months, which isn't a bad thing. I've become a good outside cook. We have a 3-burner camp stove. I move appliances outside, whether it's the toaster oven or the crock pot or whatnot, and I do things outside. And it's just enjoyable because then you're looking at the garden and the dogs around, and there's the birds and everything. So it's a way to enjoy the summer if you go outside to cook. So I'm not complaining about that. But here's the thing. With the Instant Pot, it outputs a tiny bit of heat, but it really doesn't output very much heat. So I can actually cook inside during the summer. That doesn't mean I do all the time, because if I'm grilling outside, I'll still bring the Instant Pot outside with me, and I'll plug it in there and let it go. Or if I do something inside, I'll actually carry it outside to vent, the pressure, because that's hot steam and I don't necessarily want to heat up the house. So I'll just carry it outside to do that. Or the other thing is I'll vent it right under the oven hood, so the oven hood can suck that outside. But I just love it because it gives me more options for cooking inside. If I, don't have an hour and a half to sit outside, monitoring something. Anyway, I just love that. It helps me beat the heat. Lesson learned number 5. So when you get into pressure cooking, you get an Instant Pot or you get a stovetop cooker, and you're doing soups and stews and meatballs and things that cook like right in the pot itself. But then you realize, like Lisa's question just a bit ago, can you do bread and cakes and stuff? Yes, you can. But you need something to cook them in, because you're not just pouring the batter right in the cooking pot, which means you need like cake pans or, containers or things. Well, here's lesson learned number 5. Other than your pressure cooker itself, which is either a stovetop or the Instant Pot, which I highly recommend. And you'll find links to that at the show notes, knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. So other than the cooker itself, you probably have most of what you need already in your kitchen to make fun and interesting dishes. Now, this doesn't mean you might not make the occasional purchase. I have chosen to purchase a steamer basket, some stackable stainless steel pans, but you know what I use most of the time? Pyrex glass storage bowls make great cooking containers for quick breads and cakes. Covers. You need to cover things. Well, if you cover with a layer of parchment paper and then a layer of aluminum foil, then you've got a non-toxic cover. The parchment paper prevents the aluminum foil from having contact with your food, and it's also a barrier there. So how simple is that? We probably all have that in our homes. So you make the investment in your cooker, and then you just scrounge around for odds and ends of bowls or storage dishes, and you can make all kinds of things. My daughter makes a dark chocolate custard. We have that recipe in our pressure cooking e-course in half-pint jars. So she does 4 individual custards. You can do the same with muffin batter or, other quick bread or cake type foods, just in little half-pint jars, or you can use individual ramekins. Anyway, whatever you have in your kitchen, there's probably so many options for little containers that can take your pressure cooking farther. And so that's definitely a lesson learned, that there are so many possibilities. If your kitchen has like normal glass and bowls that a lot of us tend to have if we're home cooks, we have glass storage bowls. We have half-pint jars. Mason jars, right? I bet 99% of the people that are listening right now love mason jars like I do. So mason jars, and you could do half pint or whole pint. Anyway, you probably have most of what you need in addition, other than the cooker, if you don't already have that. That was lesson learned number 5. Okay, lesson learned number 6. Now this one is going to defy all the people who promise that pressure cooking is so fast and easy. Pressure cooking is so fast and easy. I'm not going to argue with that, but I'm going to say that even though the main promise of pressure cooking is that things cook faster, that if you're a smart cook, you still need to allow for prep time, need to allow for the contents coming up to pressure, which means they need to heat, go past boiling, build up enough steam under pressure, pressurize. You have to allow for the actual cooking time. You have to allow for depressurizing, which you can do a quick release in a couple minutes, but some foods you want to depressurize naturally for 10 to 30 minutes, and you also need to allow for cooling down. Pressure cooking happens at hotter than boiling temperatures. So you open up your pressure cooker and your family's not eating that for 10 to 15 to 30 minutes because it's just way too hot. You want them to enjoy their food without getting burned, right? So this is a lesson learned number 6, is even though people say it's so fast, personally, I do not spend any less time on dinner prep than I did before. Granted, it's hands-free. A lot of it is hands-free, so I can be doing other things. So I'm more efficient and productive during that time that I'm in the kitchen preparing meals, but I don't spend less time in the kitchen preparing meals because there's still all those things to account for. So as a general rule, if I know that the cook time is 30 minutes on a dish, I know that I'm starting at 30 minutes before that, and I know that I'm allowing for 30 minutes afterward for if it needs to cook more or cooling down, or whatnot. So that's lesson learned number 6. Even though the main premise of pressure cooking is that things cook faster, you still need to allow extra time for prep, coming to pressure, pressurizing, depressurizing, and cooling down so that it's actually able to put in your mouth. Okay, I'm going to wrap up here with some Q&A. So you guys put your thoughts in the comments on Facebook Live, and if it's relevant, I will for sure include it in the final version of this podcast that will be up at knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169 in a week. So I have time to take a couple questions. Are there any? I think there's probably a little bit of a delay, so I'll wait just a bit. And as they're coming in, let me tell you 2 things. The show notes, including links, are at tradcookschool.com/169 or knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. You're so welcome. Sandy is saying thank you for being so informative. I appreciate that. If you're interested in our pressure cooking e-course, it's tradcookschool.com/lovepressure because we love pressure cooking. So that's one word, tradcookschool.com/lovepressure, one word. I also have a previous podcast from a few months ago, 8 Reasons to Love Pressure Cooking, where I just talked about how great it is, and that's knowyourfoodpodcast.com/154. Juliana is saying, have you tried frozen meats in the pressure cooker? I certainly have. I've cooked frozen chickens. I've done frozen roasts. By the way, we have an awesome roast recipe inside our pressure cooking e-course, so if you're a member, do that without delay if you haven't already. The thing is you just add more minutes for frozen. And when you buy your pressure cooker, there's usually, with it comes cooking times and tables, and they give you fresh and they give you frozen times. The other thing is there's a great book by Lorna Sass, Pressure Perfect, and she breaks down meats very well, where she tells you, this many pounds, this many minutes per pound, and if it's frozen, add this many minutes. So you just do that. Anything you can bake can go in the pressure cooker, asks Patty. I'm going to say yes, 99%. The one thing that I don't do in the pressure cooker is our sourdough sandwich bread, because I just feel like I've got it down so well in a Dutch oven, in the oven. But we do quick breads. They're steamed breads. So muffins and quick breads, yes. Desserts. In fact, a lot of those things that I just mentioned, the desserts, quick breads, cakes, they turn out more moist and a better crumb, or if it's like a cheesecake or a pudding or custard, it's smoother. So the results are superior in a pressure cooker. Susie says, I have a countertop electric pressure cooker. How can I get instructions that match instant recipes? The difference between stovetop and Instant Pot is that on the stovetop, you are bringing it up to pressure through how much heat you have on your burner and then adjusting to maintain that pressure for the duration of the cook time. So you're doing it yourself rather than the machine doing it. The other thing is that a stovetop pressure cooker has a higher PSI than the electric pressure cooker, so it actually cooks a few minutes faster than an electric pressure cooker. So you're just, just adjusting the time down a bit. And there's flexibility with the time, so that doesn't have to be a scary thing. If it's a quick, like 3 to 4 minute, like vegetable steaming, don't change the time at all. But if it's like a 30-minute something or other for an Instant Pot, maybe do 26 or 28 minutes on your stovetop. There is a great book. I think it's the Great Big Pressure Cooker Cookbook or something like that. I'll have a link for that in the show notes, knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. And after I finish this video on Facebook Live, I'll go put that link above in the description, so refresh the page. But anyway, that cookbook is fantastic. There's hundreds of whole food pressure cooking recipes, and they have instructions for both stovetop and electric. So you don't even have to make adjustments. They've got it for you. Okay, great questions, everyone. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll just wrap up that you'll find show notes and links at knowyourfoodpodcast.com/169. If you're interested in our pressure cooking e-course, it's tradcookschool.com/lovepressure, where love pressure is one word. And if you want to check out a previous podcast on what's so great about pressure cooking besides all the things I've been gushing about today, that's knowyourfoodpodcast.com/154. Bye-bye. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you'll come back again soon. Here's what you can do next. You can visit the show notes for this episode to get links and more resources about today's topic. Just visit knowyourfoodpodcast.com/ and then without a space, type in the number of today's episode. You can stop by knowyourfoodpodcast.com/watch to get 5 free traditional cooking videos from me. It's a gift. And finally, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, the podcast app, or Stitcher. If you're on a mobile device, just search for Know Your Food with Wardee right in the app. If you're on a desktop or laptop, just go to knowyourfoodpodcast.com/iTunes right in your browser. And while you're there, please leave a rating or review. I love to get your comments, and your feedback makes it much more likely that others who are interested in traditional cooking will find my podcast too. Thanks so much. God bless you, and I'll see you again soon.